There are certain things that, once you hear them, stay with you forever. You can't ignore them, and you can't simply forget they were said.
Almost cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
It all began with a single moment inside a movie theater. That moment was the spark that set everything in motion. Because Jim Caviezel wasn't just starring in a movie, he was pulling at a thread. And once that thread started to unravel, what appeared behind it pointed towards some of the most powerful and admired figures in Hollywood.
Is just the beginning of this whole thing. It's an 8-armed octopus, and if you take just out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.
He isn't referring to some obscure or far-fetched conspiracy theory. What he's describing is something far more structured, a network, a system tied to real people. These are individuals whose names are widely recognized, people the public has trusted for years. Faces that have appeared on television screens and in media for decades, always smiling, always familiar.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
So it's not.
But before understanding why Jim Caviezel's words carry so much weight, it's important to understand who he is and what it cost him to speak out. This isn't an anonymous insider quietly reading a prepared statement behind closed doors. This is the actor who portrayed Jesus Christ on one of the biggest film stages in the world. At one point, he was at the height of his career in Hollywood. Yet he chose to step away from that success to work on a film the industry seemed determined to keep hidden. Sound of Freedom tells the real-life story of Tim Ballard, a former government agent who left behind his career in order to rescue children trapped in trafficking networks operating throughout Latin America and other regions. Rather than remaining behind a desk, Ballard took direct action, risking everything to pull victims out of dangerous situations.
The guys would come up and they would, right in front of us, ask us if we wanted niñas or niños and little boys or little girls.
What happened next wasn't part of a script or a dramatic scene from a movie. It was real. During filming in Colombia, Caviezel and his team witnessed something shocking in broad daylight. Children being sold right in front of them, treated as though they were part of an ordinary marketplace transaction. When Caviezel returned to Hollywood with a completed film, a story centered on rescuing children, you might expect the industry to celebrate it. Instead, the opposite happened. Rather than supporting the project, many in the industry distanced themselves from it, effectively pushing him to the sidelines.
Everyone was told, from Rupert Murdoch, from Fox, to every studio, look, if you touch this thing, you will be out, you will be done. You'll be finished in 3 years.
Think about that for a moment. Major studios and networks didn't merely decline involvement. They reportedly warned others to keep their distance from a film about rescuing children from trafficking. And many people complied. That raises a question Caviezel has been publicly asking for years. Why? The answer he suggests leads toward powerful circles and well-known figures, names that frequently appear in discussions surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and his connections. When people begin examining those associations alongside witness statements and records linked to Epstein's island and other private properties, the situation appears deeply troubling. To understand why this issue draws so much attention, many point to the documents commonly referred to as the Epstein files. When parts of these records became public, people expected to see a few recognizable names. Instead, they revealed a much broader network: celebrities, political figures, producers, and philanthropists whose public images had long been built around influence and goodwill. Among the many names mentioned in various documents was Oprah Winfrey, appearing multiple times in references connected to the broader network of individuals associated with Epstein. Her lack of public comment on certain matters has often been noted by critics and commentators. Some observers also point to events in 2007 when Oprah launched the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa, a school designed to provide education and opportunity for underprivileged students. The initiative received worldwide praise and was widely celebrated as a charitable milestone. However, shortly after the school opened, troubling allegations surfaced involving a dormitory staff member accused of inappropriate conduct with students. Reports led to legal proceedings and a lawsuit that was later resolved privately. The staff member was ultimately acquitted after inconsistencies appeared in witness testimony, and the situation gradually faded from headlines. For critics and supporters alike, the incident remains a complex and debated chapter, one that continues to be referenced when conversations arise about accountability, transparency, and the responsibilities that come with global influence.
Emphasize it, not a dollar has been wasted.
The finances were accounted for down to the last cent. But the real question many people continue asking is, what happened to the girls themselves? Sources who claim to be close to the situation have spoken about students who allegedly disappeared from the campus, along with quiet rumors that circulated among the students, rumors that, according to these accounts, were never publicly addressed by those in authority. When someone possesses immense wealth and influence, critics often argue that remaining silent is not simply neutral, it becomes a conscious decision. Another name that frequently surfaces in discussions surrounding powerful entertainment circles is Ellen DeGeneres. Her name has not only appeared in casual rumors online, but has also been mentioned in conversations connected to individuals associated with the network of Jeffrey Epstein. People claiming familiarity with elite social circles have described situations that sound almost unbelievable at first. Yet the reason these stories continue circulating is that many separate voices have repeated similar claims. According to some accounts, certain figures were present at exclusive gatherings where secrecy was expected above everything else, events where participants were bound together by the knowledge that whatever happened inside those rooms would never be spoken about publicly.
There was a separate kitchen on their property, stainless steel, private entrance, no security cameras inside.
Some accounts describe private dinners held in carefully controlled environments, rooms without cameras, attended by only a handful of trusted guests. Witnesses have claimed that a personal chef would prepare most of the meal, while the host would handle the final portion personally. Those who have spoken about these alleged events say they were framed not as something disturbing, but rather as symbolic, something described as ancient, powerful, and meaningful within certain elite circles. This leads into a part of the story that many platforms hesitate to discuss openly. According to several individuals who say they have knowledge of these environments, the motivation behind such behavior isn't simply wealth or influence. They claim it relates to a deeper belief tied to youth and vitality. Actor Jim Caviezel has previously spoken about what he describes as a culture within the upper levels of Hollywood, an environment where some believe youthfulness and vitality can somehow be preserved or transferred through unconventional means. These ideas, according to those claims, revolve around the belief that biological elements associated with younger bodies might possess restorative properties, a concept that has circulated for generations in powerful circles.
She believed consumption was transformation, that youth could be taken in, that vitality could be absorbed. She talked about ancient rites, about elites throughout history who understood what the masses didn't.
Supporters of this theory often point to history, arguing that powerful elites throughout ancient civilizations were fascinated with rituals and practices connected to longevity. In that sense, they claim the idea isn't something modern at all. It's portrayed as a continuation of traditions that allegedly date back centuries. Within that narrative, figures such as Ellen DeGeneres are sometimes portrayed not as creators of new practices, but as participants in systems that supposedly already existed within influential networks. According to those making the claims, these traditions rely heavily on secrecy and shared responsibility among those involved. The alleged mechanism behind that secrecy is simple. Once someone participates in something controversial or illegal, they become tied to everyone else involved. If one person speaks out, everyone is at risk, including the person revealing the information. Supporters of this theory say this dynamic functions like a carefully designed trap. By creating shared liability, the system ensures that every participant has a reason to remain silent, protecting the group and its secrets.
Once you shared that secret, whatever you believed you'd consumed, you are bound to the group. No one betrays a circle that could destroy them.
Look at that idea again. People rarely expose a group that has the power to destroy them. This is why Jim Caviezel once used the metaphor of an 8-armed octopus when describing powerful networks. In his analogy, cutting off one arm doesn't stop the creature. You would have to remove the head itself. According to that interpretation, Each individual within the network may simultaneously be both protected by the system and trapped by it. Everyone involved becomes a guardian of the structure because revealing the truth would also expose themselves. Supporters of this theory often connect these claims to the infamous Little St. James, the private island owned by Jeffrey Epstein. Various reports and testimonies over the years have described disturbing activities allegedly taking place there and at other associated properties. Some sources claim that what occurred in those locations went beyond trafficking alone, involving alleged medical or experimental procedures tied to the pursuit of anti-aging treatments. In recent years, the mainstream scientific community has openly studied areas such as plasma transfusions, stem cell research, and other regenerative therapies. Researchers exploring these topics often discuss how certain biological materials, particularly those related to younger blood, might influence aging processes. What some witnesses claim, however, is that there exists an illicit, underground version of that research operating outside ethical review boards, regulations, or clinical oversight. According to those allegations, such activities would require extreme secrecy, places far removed from public view, with limited access and a tightly controlled list of visitors.
I believe it's going to move a lot of whistleblowers to come forward, but not one. In the hundreds, maybe thousands of them worldwide start coming forward and telling the truth of what's really going on.
Hundreds, thousands, not small numbers. That's not the language of someone discussing a minor operation. It's the language of someone who claims to understand the full magnitude of what's happening and is warning the public about its scope. Let's examine Oprah Winfrey more closely. According to Jim Caviezel, her role is far more than that of a wealthy individual with influential connections. He describes her as structural, a gatekeeper. Consider what that actually implies. Oprah Winfrey wields more cultural authority than almost any figure in modern American history. She has influenced the books people read, the medical professionals they trust, the political leaders they support, the spiritual advisors they follow, and even which narratives the public never hears. She publicly supported Harvey Weinstein for decades, appearing with him at countless industry events. She introduced him to young actresses, lending him a level of social credibility few could match, at a time when numerous women were already being harmed by his actions.
Had Oprah Winfrey there with him, who entered the room and was swinging off his arm and just seemed like a very dear friend. And these, like Oprah, Naomi, Rita, and Georgina, they all sat at his table. And for me, meeting Oprah was like, oh my God, like I would have thought that I would have to be someone who's established, who everyone would have had to know about before I was privileged enough to meet someone like Oprah. So that gave me so much confidence in him at the time when he approached me.
That young woman's trust in a predator was shaped by Oprah standing beside him. This is not random. It's a mechanism of influence. And whether she was fully aware of the consequences or not, at some point, claiming ignorance ceases to be a defense and becomes a choice. The pattern repeated with John of God, the Brazilian faith healer. Oprah promoted him repeatedly to her global audience, giving him credibility and visibility. Later, John of God was convicted of assaulting dozens of women, a background that could have been uncovered through basic research in a single afternoon. Yet Oprah's endorsement gave him legitimacy, access, and the trust of millions.
Just go to bed, wear white, just wear everything is white, drink the water, take the herb.
And then there's Diddy. Oprah was a visible presence at his events, photographed and celebrated within the same elite circles that are now under federal investigation, investigations that have shaken Hollywood to its core. It's critical to clarify what Caviezel is alleging here. He is not merely pointing out that Oprah associated with controversial figures. He claims she functions as a node in a network, a legitimizing force within a system that makes predatory behavior appear safe, trustworthy, and even aspirational. The pattern repeats: Weinstein, John of God, Diddy, Epstein's files, the South African school. Each time it follows a formula: proximity, validation, silence, rebranding. Every time scrutiny arises, she doesn't flee, she reinvents herself. Philanthropy initiatives, fundraising events, Golden Globe speeches about supporting survivors, pivoting to Me Too narratives. The public sees solutions, not the underlying problem she helped normalize. Now consider those who tried to speak. Anne Heche was Ellen DeGeneres' partner in the late 1990s. Their relationship was highly publicized, lauded as a progressive love story, and featured in magazines. But sources close to, and particularly those involved with a documentary called Children of the Machine on child trafficking, describe a very different private reality. According to these sources, Anne had witnessed experiences during her time with Ellen that haunted her for years. When she finally began to articulate these experiences for the documentary, she allegedly became a liability to extremely powerful people.
She didn't go through hell for nothing. We'll get it out there.
In August 2022, Anne Heche died in a dramatic single-car crash in Los Angeles. Her vehicle, traveling at high speed, collided with a residential building and ignited. Toxicology reports noted the presence of drugs in her system. The official ruling classified the incident as an accident. However, people close to and members of the documentary team have publicly expressed doubts about the timing and circumstances. They suggest that Anne had been uncovering information that certain highly influential individuals wanted kept hidden, and that her proximity to that knowledge may have played a role in the tragic timing of her death.
That crash wasn't random. It was a hit to shut her up. And the poison started way before, in her relationship with Ellen.
To be clear, we are not presenting these claims as verified fact. We are sharing what witnesses have stated, what those closest to and believed in the wake of her death. Context is critical, because once you view these events alongside the broader patterns Jim Caviezel has described, the question of whether powerful individuals silence inconvenient witnesses stops sounding like paranoia and begins to read like documented historical reality. Consider Jeffrey Epstein. He died while in federal custody, officially ruled a suicide. His cellmate was mysteriously transferred the night before. Security cameras outside his cell simultaneously malfunctioned, and the man who allegedly held more names than anyone in the modern history of elite scandal took every one of those secrets to the grave. This is the world Jim Caviezel is describing, a world he has spoken about on camera at tremendous personal and professional risk, and what he perceives as potential physical danger. Caviezel isn't simply recounting past events, he is forecasting a future. At conferences and gatherings across the country, he has been referring to what he calls the event, a reckoning, a storm unlike any other. In his view, the Epstein files are not the conclusion, but the trigger, the tipping domino that will set off a cascade of arrests, revelations, and institutional upheaval already underway. Consider the scale. In the United States alone, over 300,000 children under 18 have been pulled into trafficking operations. Of the roughly 85,000 children who crossed the southern border in recent years, many have vanished without a trace. No follow-up, no records, no accountability from those in positions of authority.
85,000 children crossed the border this last year and disappeared. Where did they disappear?
Where did they go? That is not a rhetorical question. It is a live criminal investigation. Every individual listed in the Epstein files, every name on flight logs, every attendee at exclusive dinners, every guest in hidden estate rooms could hold part of the answer. Caviezel has stated publicly that, in his view, the saints themselves would want to remain on this earth now, because there are more souls in need of rescue at this moment than at any other time in human history. That is prophetic language, the voice of a man convinced he stands at a pivotal point in history.
I know that the saints in heaven wish to be on this earth right now because there are far more people on this earth than there's ever been. And there are far more souls to save right now than there ever has ever been.
Whether or not you share his spiritual perspective, the underlying facts are undeniable. The files exist. The names exist. The missing children exist. And the pattern of silence, complicity, and institutional protection exists. The question Caviezel has posed for years lands like a verdict. If these allegations were treated as crimes, the people involved would be in jail. Yet Oprah is not incarcerated. Ellen is not under public investigation. The networks Caviezel describes remain intact, still shielded by money, influence, and media control that have protected them for decades. Caviezel predicted that this film would embolden whistleblowers. And it has, Hundreds, potentially thousands, are coming forward, risking everything to speak the truth. Children of the Machine, the documentary and Hetchy was involved with, is reportedly still in production, operating discreetly but persistently. When it is released, the names mentioned in this discussion will not be the final list. They will mark the beginning. Stay focused. This story is far from over. It is only beginning.